Hello and welcome to my top 10 games of 1991, and yes, we're actually at the top 10s now, whereas in previous years it was like 6, 7, 4. Now we're on to actually 10 games, and here we are with number 10. It is the arcade game for Robocop 2. I almost forgot the name of the game then, and the name of the movie. Now, it's self-explanatory. It is based on the Robocop 2 movie, loosely. I mean, there's a lot of like these gang members and stuff like that you have to kill, as Robocop usually does. It's within his parameters of like protecting the law and serving the public trust. So yeah, you just Robocop, you just go around shooting all the baddies, and then maybe you will actually come across that Kane guy who is the actual Robocop 2 crime fighter, who is on the drug called Nuke, I think it's called, in like the film and all the other media. Wasn't Robocop 2 supposed to be a Frank Miller thing at one point? Yeah, I believe it was. Anyways, it's an alright arcade game. I played it... When did I play this? I played it in 2020, I think, this game, for the first time. I had no idea that there was, like, these Robocop arcade games. But, you know what? I haven't played them. They're okay. They're not as good as, say, like, all the other Capcom and, like, and Konami, like, arcade games of the time. But it's an alright arcade game. Anyways, let us move on to number 8. Number 8? Number 9 comes before 8. Right, on to number 9. Okay, number 9 here is Road Rash. Now, Road Rash is one of those early EA games. Ooh. EA made it like a few good games here and there, admittedly. Road Rash, I think, is one of them. Now, like, again, it's really odd for me to have like a racing game on this channel. But hey, this was one of the ones that like I grew up with as a kid, and yeah, I'm coming to learn more and more that like I had a little bit of a say of like stuff that I wanted as a child. So like Sonic the Hedgehog, I'd tell like my parents that like I want Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, like because every other kid was into Sonic, and then it became Crash Bandicoot later on down the line. But with like stuff like this, it would have been like a random like flea market or whatever garage sale thing that my mum would have went to, and she would have just picked up like Road Rash, and this would be like the new game. And yeah, I have to say, like none of my family are really big into like actual like racing sports or anything like that. I don't know what the motorbike equivalent is, but you know, like Formula 1 and stuff like that. We're not like car or motorcycle enthusiasts, but it's just one of those things that my mother would have picked it up and she gave it me and my brother to play, and yeah, it's just always stuck with me. I think it's more so this one than any of the other races that I've played on the Sega, because you have that ability to punch and like kick and whatever. I think you can get actual like weapons like batons and stuff like that, and it's actually pretty amusing to actually, you know, whack a fellow rival over the head and see them flying off their bike in like your wind room mirrors. I don't even know what the mirrors are called. The mirrors of the bike. So is it a rear view mirror? I think it is those. Anyways, it's a pretty alright, decent racing game for its time. Let us see what's next, shall we? Okay, next up is the Simpsons arcade game. Now, this is a 4-player beat-em-up side-scroller where you play the Simpsons and you have to save Maggie, who's been accidentally kidnapped by Smithers and Mr. Burns, which is, yeah, sure, okay, that's a plot line. You get to control one of each 4 of the Simpsons, so we're missing out Lisa and Bart here. And it's from Konami, and it's actually pretty decent, you know, as an arcade game. A lot of people say this is like the best Simpsons game of all time. I'm more one for the Simpsons Hit and Run, personally. This was one that I heard a load about, even from like the 90s and early 2000s, of like it's one of those arcade games that you should play. But I only just recently played it in like 2017, so it's taken a long while to get to it. But overall, it's a pretty like decent beat 'em up. 4-player as well, if you so wish, or have the people for 4-player. At the moment, it's just me and my brother in this gameplay that I'm showing off right here. And yeah, it's like traditional beat 'em ups of the time. You go through a level, and then there's usually like a big bad boss at the end of each stage. So that is The Simpsons. On to the next one. And here we have our number 7, another 4-player game, Sunset Riders. Now, Sunset Riders is actually something that I did play in the 90s as a child, and I just recall it. I recall like there was a game where you were cowboys, and it was like 4 players, and yeah, it was just like big, bright, colourful stuff, as you can see here, with all the like oranges and purples, stuff like that. The horses there, especially. And yeah, it's just one of those things that I just remembered, but it's actually a shoot 'em up. Shoot 'em up, is that the right way of saying it? Essentially, if you get hit once, you're dead, and then you have to keep on throwing in the coins into the machine to like continue on playing. It's pretty fun. It's from Konami again. Konami's like on a roll in the arcades in the early 90s, aren't they? It's a shame like what they've become now, but back in like that day, they were like they're on top form, you know. And yeah, it's just more fast paced. It's not exactly the super fastest paced thing of all time, but it is high energy, let's say. Very like highly energetic shooter game set in the old Wild West. Okay, that's about it for this one. Let's see what is next up on my favourites. Okay, my 6th favourite game of 1991 is obviously the classic Street Fighter 2. Now, Street Fighter 2, more than probably any other on this 1991 list, is the most significant. I've placed it at number 6 just because, in my tastes, I do have other games that I feel I enjoyed more as a kid. But you can't take away the impact of Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 basically popularized like the fighting game. You would find shortly after this there'll be like a lot of other like copycats and other like styles of fighting games that are trying to do the same thing but do it their own style. So example would be like Mortal Kombat, say. It was designed as like a rival to this, but it wasn't exactly using the same like, you know, style. Mortal Kombat had its own style, but Street Fighter 2 here, as the name suggests, is the second in the series. You already had the first one out, which was in like I believe it was like 1987, 1988, something like that, Street Fighter 1. But it was just, yeah, let's just face it, it was pants, the original one. No one knows Street Fighter 1. That's how pants it is. Where the real like deal begins is in this one. Now, like it had all these special moves, and I forget if it accidentally made I think you could do combos and stuff like that, which is actually a glitch. I believe that's how combos were first brought into the world of like Street Fighter 2. It was just yeah, it was just a happy accident that just happened. But here's a little bit of me and my brother fighting each other from my playthrough of it. Loved array of characters. You could say, yeah, like Ryu and Ken are basically just clones of each other, but then you obviously have like Chun-Li, Blanca. I'm forgetting all the characters here. Guile, Dalsim. I'm actually forgetting all the characters. Zangief. There was one more. I can't remember. I was just on like the character select screen there. What I'm trying to say is they're memorable, even though I can't remember them right now. But it is true, like, they are more recognizable than the other characters in, like, the later games. Like, Street Fighter 3 has, like, some good characters, but, like, I don't... They're not as, like, used as these guys. You tend to find that every new Street Fighter game usually has 2 or 3 of, like, the guys from Street Fighter 2 in it. And it's usually always, like, a Ryu, a Ken, and, like, a Chun-Li here and there. But yeah, this is it. This is the original Street Fighter 2 that popularized the fighting game and made many, like, other companies just make Street Fighter clones from here to the end of time. Alright then, that's enough of Street Fighter 2, let us move on. Alright, so my 5th pick here is Golden Axe 2. Now, Golden Axe 2 was something that I never thought I'd see, because I played, like, Golden Axe 1 to death as a kid, and still being a kid at the time, I was surprised to find out that there was, like, a Golden Axe 2, so it was an obvious thing that, like, this is going to be, like, the best sequel of all time. I don't think it is better than the first one. I still enjoy the first one a lot more than the sequel. It's very, very similar to the first one in, like, its style and stuff like that. When we get to things like Streets of Rage and the jump between Streets of Rage 1 and 2, there's, like, a massive difference. This one, it's very, very just, like, similar. I don't want to say it's, like, copy and paste of, like, the first game, but, like, mechanically nothing has changed. It's just, you might have, like, a new move, like some things that, like, the characters are doing on screen right now. But in a sense, if you like Golden Axe 1, it's just more of the same. It's just, in my opinion, a little bit, like, worse off by the fact that I just walked off the edge there into the water. No, worse off by the fact that, like, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as the first one does. I don't know, there's something about it that it's not cheap or anything like that. It just doesn't look as good, in my opinion, artsy wise, you know. Anyway, it's basically the same formula as the first game. You just hack and slash your way to the end of the stage and then you fight a big bad. So, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Wait, what? That's not if it's not broke, don't fix it. yeah, that's the saying. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Because, like, the formula works, but it is basically like a carbon copy of the first game, almost. Alright, let's move on. Right, so here we are. Number 4 is Streets of Rage. Now, this is actually, like, one of the first games that I played. So I've already mentioned beforehand that, like, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Golden Axe were, like, the first games that I played on a Sega. But this was shortly following those. It's one of those ones that, like, I have fond memories of, like, just, like, my childhood, just, like, coming home after, like, school and, like, just throwing the cartridge of this one straight into the machine and just hitting that play button. Yeah, so it's similar to Golden Axe in the fact that it's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Again, same formula with, like, these. There's a lot of henchmen and stuff like that, and then a big bad at the end of the level. Also, you might notice in my playthroughs that, like, I have to always attack my brother because this is when there was, like, friendly fire and stuff that was automatically on and you couldn't turn it off. So he is constantly trying to, like, smash me up all the time like an a-hole, but, you know, what are you gonna do? I deal with it. I'm pretty sure you guys will have siblings who, like, annoy you when playing games. The best thing you could ever do, and he's done this a few times, he did it with me on my, like, 360 once, is when, like, you just go past, like, your sibling, your brother or sister or whatever, and then, like, you're playing a game and they just walk on by and then they just turn off the power of your machine. It's, like, the most devastating and most annoying, angriest you could ever be, but it's also kind of funny. So I recall many times where, like, You just turn off the bloody machine. Scar me for life. Anyways, Streets of Rage. I can't really say much more other than it's a very good brawler. It's one of those ones that I'm gonna say it. Like I'm pretty sure, like the SNES had Final Fight. Just solely because I didn't really play the SNES or any Nintendo systems really as a child. I prefer like Streets of Rage over Final Fight. I don't know, it's more edgier. I think I say that quite a bit, but I believe that was the kind of like the niche kind of like gimmicky thing that Sega was trying to go for with like the advertising and all that lot of like, we're a bit more like adult than like Nintendo. Nintendo's a bit more not babyish, but like child, like you're like more child friendly, where like the Sega stuff was supposed to be a bit more it has a bit of an edge to it, you know. And I don't know, for me Streets of Rage seems like it's a bit more in line with that kind of vibe that I get with like Sega of the early 90s. Alright then, let us move along. Okay, here we are with our next pick, and it is actually something that I kind of do adore, and it is the Castlevania IV game. Or as they were calling it with all the Super Nintendo games at the time, Super Castlevania IV. And you can actually moonwalk up the stairs, it's pretty sweet. I don't think you can moonwalk down them, just up them. Anyways, enough about moonwalking. Castlevania IV is pretty much just it's kind of like a remake of the original Castlevania. So again, I think you're Simon Belmont, and Simon Belmonte has to actually like kill Dracula again. Ooh, a tale as old as time. No, yeah, with like the enhanced 16-bit graphics of the Super Nintendo and that lovely sound chip, as well as the fact that the whip is now kind of like a semi like 360 degrees whip thing, as you can see there as I was wiggling it about. You can strike out in like multiple directions instead of just like the classic just like striking forward, so you can like up, down, diagonal, whichever way you want. Just bear in mind that a lot of enemies are not just like one hit, like the skeletons and stuff like that, they'll go down in one hit, but especially if you upgrade your whip like I have, so the upgrades make the whip longer. I think they make them, it makes it a bit more powerful as well, I would presume. I should know this, I've played this game a few times. But my history with Castlevania IV and why it's so high is, again, it's just the fact that that whip is just so like, I don't know if the right word is versatile, don't think that's the right word for it. It's just, it gives you an extra like amount of freedom, especially with just the fact that you can, the direction that you can like whip from, whip to, you know, to hit enemies. I don't know, there's something about it. It's not my favourite Castlevania of all time. That goes to another one. I need to start playing a few of like the mid-90s ones to actually really see which one I like more. I'm leaning towards one more than the other, but I'm not so sure at the moment after I've actually replayed those games. But this one is a really great like entry to the Super Nintendo, and I believe it's not the only one. I think there's like Rondo of Blood and stuff like that, but I've not bothered with those ones. And there's like a TurboGrafx one as well that kind of leads into, I think that is Rondo of Blood what I'm talking about. It leads into Symphony of the Night. But this one is basically just, it's not like a sequel or anything like that. I believe it is, look, you could moonwalk downstairs. I believe this actually is supposed to be just a soft reboot of like Castlevania 1. So it's retelling that tale. Except you have better whip movement. Arguably, some people would argue against that, like they're just the purists and they're like, no, it's only like Castlevania should be one way, not this 360 whip movement. Anyways, that's enough of whipping like monsters and stuff like that. Let's get on to the next one. Okay, so my number 2 spot is it's the first Sonic the Hedgehog game. Now, I was contemplating whether to put this at number 1 or number 2, but ultimately, I think the number 1 is more deserving, even though my number 1 I've played in more recent times. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of those games that I think anyone who has Sega has usually played it. I believe when... So I originally, as I said before, my first games that I ever played was at a friend's house that were Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Golden Axe 1. So I came to Sonic the Hedgehog 1 a bit later on. By a bit later on, I don't think that too long. I think it was like a year into it. So with the Sega Mega Drive that I got was called the Sega Mega Drive 2. It's not like powerful or anything like that. It's just it had... You know what? I'm not entirely sure what it had. I think it was just a smaller designed model that was needed for the Sega CD in Europe. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is the actual Sega Mega Drive that I got came with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 built into it. So, I played Sonic the Hedgehog 2 a lot more than like this one. I got this one again, I'm gonna say about like a year or so afterwards, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to concentrate. It's just like these special stages that's very trippy for some reason for me to look at and talk about at the same time. Thank goodness it's over, and I got 1 Chaos Emerald. Oh, that's the thing. I don't actually go in for like 100% runs really with these older games. It wasn't my thing. My thing was just like getting to the end screen credits of like, hey, you've beaten the game. But yeah, so I came to this one a bit later on. It had no spin dash and stuff like that, so I was very confused. The Sega Mega Drive machine that I got, that me and my brother got, shall I say, came packaged in. Well, in with the deal was Sonic the Hedgehog 2, so we already had like 1 game. We had 1 Sonic before this. And going back to this one was kind of a bit bizarre because, again, you don't have the spin dash, so you don't have any momentum whatsoever. Well, you do have momentum, you just have to run like that and build it up. But you can't just automatically get momentum, that's what I'm trying to say. You can spin dash, you just have to be in a run and then hit down on the D-pad. And then you can spin. But yeah, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. It's a very classic one. There's not much else I can say about that other than I have played the Sonic games to death, really, quite a bit, especially as a child when you had nothing else better to do, and getting away from like doing homework and stuff like that, just like sneak off to the Sega and it's just like, yeah, I'm studying. It's like, you're not studying. Anyways, that was a bit of Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's see what my number 1 pick is. Okay, so my number 1 pick is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Now, I was contemplating putting Sonic the Hedgehog 1 above this, just because of like its impact on me as a child, but ultimately, after having played A Link to the Past, I have to put this one here. It's just got more so than like the first 2 Zeldas. I keep saying first 2, the first one, because I don't really usually class Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, as a Zelda game. I class this as the second one. Is that okay of me to do? You tell me in the comments. But yeah, like A Link to the Past pretty much just nails everything. It has... I think this one is the one that basically just... It makes all of like the primary points of Zelda that like every other Zelda game usually abides by, I believe. I'll have to play the other ones. The only other Zeldas that I've really completed are like Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time once. So I'll have to see if that theory stands up, but I have a feeling that this made like the blueprint that like a lot of the others just go by. And yeah, I had to put it at this place because I've recently only played it to completion. Again, this is one of the ones that like I didn't actually play at my friend's house when I was a kid. I don't think he even had Zelda. He had like a lot of Mario Mario Kart and stuff like that. And yeah, like you have to save Hyrule, save Princess Zelda. It's just, I know that like it can be the same old shtick with like the Zelda games of just like, oh, you have to beat Ganon and stuff like that. But they are fun, and it is kind of very similar to the Mario series, where like it kind of reinvents itself. Mario does that more, but like Zelda puts a new spin on like this same old classic like Zelda like story of like good versus evil. And I just had to, like, it was just one of those ones that like I played it on my channel and I was just like, that was brilliant, I can't wait till the next one, even though I am waiting till the next one. And the next one would be Ocarina of Time, which I'll have to see how I feel about that one. But anyways, for my number one of 1991, it is definitely the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. And if you agree with me, feel free to like and comment and subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. Hey, if you don't agree with me, tell me what your stuff is in the comments. Anyways, until the next one, I hope you enjoyed like this little insight as well of like the games that I like to play. But as I was saying, until the next one, bye.